In this update, we're going to be watching a round of severe storms starting tonight across East Texas that pulls eastward into the deep south, heading into the southeast, going into that Friday time frame. While further to the north, we're starting to see ridging building over Greenland and Alaska. That starts trapping the colder air underneath. That will kick off a bona fide blizzard up here into the Midwest. And then a secondary piece of energy that will be diving south along with that Arctic cold. And some of that ice could actually go all the way down into the deep south. So I appreciate all my subscribers on this channel. This is the Ultra channel, my secondary channel. I do updates whenever it gets busy during busier times. So if you'd like to follow along, hit the subscribe button. I'll be out here all throughout the 2024 season, keeping you well ahead of the storm. So let's break this thing down for you, because this is a busy map, folks. In fact, we've had some upgrades to blizzard warnings out here into Idaho and across portions of the Dakotas. They've got wind chill advisories already in place, where wind chills could be dropping down to 35 below zero. That is the true Arctic air that's coming out of Canada and entering the lower 48. But we got a lot of snow to tap into. First, we've got this southern flank system that's going to be swinging across portions of Arizona down here into Santa Fe. That's the storm system that's going to be lifting northbound, heading into Topeka. But these are upgrades into the Des Moines region. And in fact, Chicago and Milwaukee now is under that winter storm warning, and that just extends into Michigan, where we are expecting an all-out blizzard up here in that region. But further to the south, we've got to be concerned about severe storms. I do feel this is all going to start to take shape after midnight. So it's going to be starting to blow up these kind of supercells, these isolated supercells at first, but then I think it's going to start to fill in as we get into the overnight hours. This is where these lightning instabilities could be over that 6-hour time frame from that midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning, essentially starting right there in the cusp of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but especially extending into East Texas, heading into the Shreveport region, all of Arkansas. And then that just extends into portions of western Tennessee through that 6 a.m. time frame. Now, the Storm Prediction Center does in fact have an enhanced risk on this particular area. It's really the area across northeast Texas that I'm mainly concerned about for those very large hail, up to that golf ball size hail potential, and tornadoes. You have the higher probability, and even including some strong tornadoes within this sector. But don't let your guard down if you live anywhere east of Dallas. This is after midnight, folks. This is most of the time where you're going to be sleeping into the overnight hours. But yes, those could be on the bumpy side, and when they turn severe, they are going to be rotating, so they could drop down a tornado or two within its wake. So you definitely just have to be concerned and keep kind of one eye open with this particular storm system as it goes through the overnight hours, and that will extend into the southeast tomorrow. So the dynamics don't look as intense as it was looking like this morning. So they elected to drop the parameters down at least one notch on this system, but it still includes the same area of coverage. And just the overall intensity of the storms has maybe leveled down a little bit of a notch there. But that's a good thing, because this is going to be a widespread event across a good part of the southeast. And you just dealt with those severe storms. In fact, you had 360 warnings from the 8th and the 9th, just those other days, across the severe thunderstorm warnings and the tornado warnings. So this is the last thing you want to see, is another setup, especially in the middle of January, folks. This is wintertime. We're not supposed to be seeing this stuff. So, but yes, we got to be concerned about that severe storms. And this is a daytime event. As this continues to shift off, it's likely going to be an evening event once it gets up here into the Carolinas, and especially out towards the Raleigh region. But it's all the culprit of this significant trough, this low-level jet that will be digging in. And see, when it slightly turns upwards, that's negatively tilting, and that's when the area changes directions and height, and that's where the atmosphere could be rotating closer to the surface. And that's why we have that strong tornado potential out here, but it's also the main reason why this an area of low pressure will be rapidly deepening for the upper Midwest. And this could kick off a pretty intense blizzard across these regions in and around the Chicago region towards Milwaukee, heading into Michigan. So I think it all really starts to get cranking around Friday morning. So about Friday morning, we should have about a 990 low. Looking at the latest high resolution guidance, it updates really every hour. And in fact, this has got just a little bit more intense on the snowfall and what we were seeing earlier. But yeah, this could be a very intense storm as this low pressure rapidly deepens up here, across Nebraska, getting into Iowa again. Iowa got clocked the other day. Iowa City had 15 inches. Go ahead and tack on another 8 to 12 on top of this sector, but especially in northern Illinois. But this time, Chicago is going to be one of the bullseye areas with this particular system, because as it moves up to the northeast, it starts to tend to slow down. And when it slows down, obviously that cranks the totals on the snowfall upwards, plus the low is going to be deepening at the same time. So we go from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. over a 10-hour time span. It's dropping another 13 millibars down to a 977 as the low pressure will be starting to slow down and cranking out the snow across Michigan, through all of Wisconsin here, down towards Iowa, and then changing over to all that snow on the backside. And when it's on the backside, I think that's when it's going to be the most significant for those areas across Milwaukee into the Chicago region, as this low finally starts to bottom out somewhere in the vicinity of 966, 967 range, folks. So that's literally a bomb cyclone, they call it. If you have one that drops 24 millibars in that 24-hour period, that's essentially a kind of a bombogenesis, as often as it's referred to, as it really starts to just rapidly deepening. And when it does that, it's almost like a hurricane when it's going through rapid intensification, kind of the same process, but this is a winter storm aspect of it versus a hurricane with this particular system. But it's going to have extensive winds within this sector and dump some pretty heavy snows. So this is the latest update over a 24 to 36 hour period from some of the high resolution guidance. And this has been pretty consistent. In fact, they've upped the ante just a little bit with these totals, but across the board, easily 6 to 10 inches. We could definitely see some foot totals within this area. And we are going to be having some lake enhanced, in fact, snowfall with these particular setups. So the closer you live towards the lakes, I do feel, especially as this low kind of stalls within this sector, we could get that kind of the downsloping and that crosswind to pull in some of that warmer lake water and dump it inland with some significant total. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get some 18, if not almost 20-inch totals across these regions near Wisconsin, in and around the Chicago suburbs region, through Michigan here, as those extensive winds will be cranking. This is widespread, folks. We've got numerous wind advisories across the board for the deep south with that dynamic system coming in. Whether it's going to be raining or not, you're going to get extensive winds of 40, 50, upwards to 60 miles an hour. And within where that low pressure is, those winds, those tight isobars are really going to be tightening it up and just expanding, and seeing those wind gusts going to that tropical storm force winds and upwards to even some hurricane force wind gust at times is definitely not out of the question with this dynamic setup. But then we got to talk about the Arctic air, because that's another element of the puzzle that's going to play a big role heading into next week, as this is the first surge of like true Arctic air we've seen so far this winter. We haven't seen these numbers so far, with minus 20s showing up on the map for Sunday afternoon. These are high temperatures, folks. So imagine a high of like 20 below zero, and that's the highest you're going to get for the day. That is bone-chilling cold, dropping those temperatures down into the teens across the Dakotas, and those single-digit highs drop into Kansas, all the way through Oklahoma, showing up as a 10 in Oklahoma City region. and back into the hard freeze category in the 24 range and within around Dallas as we head into Sunday afternoon. So that is true Arctic air plunging southward, and we are going to be watching a short wave. So we're going to have Arctic air in place, and this short wave, one of the things about Arctic air is the driest air. So it's always complicated of how much moisture it's going to be able to squeeze out in this atmosphere, because the Arctic air will actually be in place a full day before this short wave arrives. So it is going to be enough lift to, I think, overturn the atmosphere at the lower levels. But we're not looking at like a significant break. We're not looking like a major winter storm or anything like that. But anything that falls within that region is going to be ice across the Dallas-Fort Worth region into possibly central Texas. It's likely going to be all snow across Oklahoma. Yes, those regions could pick up 2 to 4 inches of snow in and around Oklahoma City, into the Tulsa region, going through Arkansas, western Tennessee. But further south, unfortunately, it's going to be all ice with this particular system, but it will be going southbound. So the Arctic air is going to continue to plunge. In fact, it covers the entire state of Texas. So there's no question it's going to get cold. It's just how much precipitation is going to be able to ring out of that short wave as it fights that dry air every step of the way. But anything that does fall is going to cause problems. And a lot of times, even a glaze, a tenth of an inch, like even a coating of ice on the roads, actually is a lot more dangerous than if you just have a 1/4 inch of ice on the ground. It's pretty easy to say, hey, I'm not driving in that stuff. But when there's only a glaze of ice, you tend to let your guard down a little bit, and you're like, hey, the roads are fine, until you hit a slip spot, and then you're going too fast, and the next thing you know, you're in a ditch. So that can be a dangerous situation, even with this even slight drizzle that could unfold, across these regions, especially as you get further south. And it's not out of the question further south that we could be seeing some ice. Yeah, those are areas across northern portions of Houston, getting in south of Shreveport here. That would be freezing rain, if not sleet, as the snow could be changing over just to light snow into Mississippi and to Alabama. No, that's not severe storms, right? Now we're talking winter weather as the cold air fights it. But look, that's a 1032 Arctic high pressure dropping down into Mexico. It's going to be cold. So I think the coldest morning out of this Arctic outbreak, it will be Tuesday. And these are actual temperatures, folks. We've got at least 20 states are going to be below 0 temperatures. And that even includes all the way into Oklahoma, and single digits actually fall for a good part of Texas. It's hard to get to 9 degrees in Shreveport, folks. These don't happen every single year that we see a significant Arctic outbreak like what we're going to be seeing coming, but it looks like it's going to clear all the way down into Mexico. We even get a freeze with this system, and the wind chill on top of that could be really serious. I don't think it gets as extensive as what we saw for the February 2021 event, but it's close enough. All right, we can grasp at straws all day long. I think you bottomed out at 35 below wind chill, and this is a minus 23 below. Cold is cold is cold, right? It's still cold, and it's going to be bone chilling cold across a good part of the lower 48 as we head into that Tuesday timeframe. And I think it's just going to be a very cold week next week. A lot of ensembles continue to pull that Arctic air, and it comes in pulses, right? And it comes in pulses. Those areas across Oklahoma could stay below freezing for like 5 days, and North Texas could stay below freezing a good 84 hours. So just to kind of give you an idea of the true grasp of the cold front. But it looks to stay around for an extended period of time, not like the ongoing overall freezing temperatures, but below average for all of next week is definitely on the table for a good part of the lower 48, at least through that 20th time frame. And if we extend it, even going into the 24th time frame, it does slingshot the cold eastward, but it still has much of the central and eastern 2/3 of the US well below average, while we start to see the ridging start to kind of build back slightly across our western regions, and they start to see above normal temperatures as that slowly tries to eat away some of that, Arctic air. But overall, the trend is colder. So not only do we get the plunge and bottom out, say on Tuesday across the south, but that just slingshots it eastward. And then we have several impulses after that of Arctic air coming down. So it's likely, we say, well below average across these regions through the 22nd of the month. That's still 11 days away, folks. So that's an extended cold snap that will be on the table that starts Saturday afternoon, and that will just continue across the Ohio Valley, really highlighting the deep cold across this region through the 18th and the 20th time frame. But mainly the eastern corridor stays predominantly on the well below average side all the way through that 24th time frame. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update while I protect you before and after the storm.